frightening precision. In 1986, a human researcher named John Gottman built something he called the Love Lab. It was an apartment on a university campus, wired with cameras and heart rate monitors, where volunteer couples were asked to do one simple thing: talk about a disagreement for 15 minutes. While researchers watched, Gottman recorded thousands of these conversations over 4 decades. Then he did something remarkable. He followed those same couples for years afterward, tracking who stayed together and who did not. And he found a pattern so consistent that it should not be possible in a species as complicated as yours. By analyzing just 15 minutes of an argument, Gottman and his team could predict whether a couple would divorce within 6 years, with 94% accuracy. Not by what the couples argued about. Money, chores, and in-laws are not the problem. By how they argued. That is the entire discovery. I have spent considerable time studying human bonding rituals. Your species forms pair bonds for warmth, for resources, for reproduction, and this part still puzzles my research team. For something you call companionship, which appears to have no survival function at all, and yet humans rank it above almost everything else. And so this 15-minute prediction fascinated us. What exactly was Gottman seeing? He identified 4 specific communication behaviors. They almost always appear in the same order. He named them, with characteristic human flair for drama, the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Let me walk you through each one. The first horseman is criticism. This is different from a complaint. A complaint addresses a specific action. You did not call to say you would be late. Criticism attacks the person's character. You never think about anyone but yourself. The word always and the word never are the linguistic fingerprints of criticism. They transform a single event into a permanent verdict on someone's identity. The second horseman is contempt. And of the 4, this is the one Gottman considers the most dangerous. Contempt is criticism with a sense of superiority attached. It includes eye-rolling, sarcasm, mockery, name-calling, mimicking someone in a mocking tone. Contempt communicates disgust, and disgust is a very specific emotion. Evolutionarily, it exists to make you want to expel something from your body. When contempt appears in a relationship, one partner has begun to see the other as beneath them. Gottman's data shows that contempt alone is the single strongest predictor of divorce of all 4 horsemen. Couples who display contempt toward each other are more likely to suffer infectious illness in the following years, because chronic contempt measurably suppresses immune function. The third horseman is defensiveness. This looks like protecting yourself, but it functions as blame reversal. I only forgot because you never remind me. I wouldn't have yelled if you hadn't started it. Defensiveness says, the problem is not me, the problem is you. And it prevents any actual repair from happening, because nobody involved is taking responsibility for anything. The fourth horseman is stonewalling. This is when one partner completely withdraws from the interaction. No eye contact, arms crossed, monosyllabic answers, turning away, leaving the room. Stonewalling looks like calm. It is not calm. Gottman's physiological data reveals that stonewalling partners are usually in a state of extreme internal arousal, heart rate spiked above 100 beats per minute, a state he calls diffuse physiological flooding. The nervous system has entered a fight or flight state so intense that rational conversation becomes neurologically impossible. Shutting down is the brain's emergency exit, not a strategy. Here is the sequence my research team has documented across the data. Criticism appears first, usually early in a relationship's decline. Contempt follows once resentment accumulates. Defensiveness responds to contempt, because nobody can absorb an attack on their character without pushing back. And stonewalling arrives last, when one partner has become so flooded that withdrawal feels like the only option remaining. By the time stonewalling becomes a regular pattern, the relationship is, statistically, in serious danger. Let me give you 3 concrete examples of how these horsemen appear in ordinary human life. Example 1. A partner comes home 20 minutes late without texting. Horseman-free response. I was worried. Can you text next time? Contempt-laced response, delivered with an eye roll. Wow. Big surprise. You can't even send one text. Typical. Example 2. During a disagreement about finances, one partner says, I feel like we're not on the same page about spending. Can we look at the budget together? The defensive counter. Well, maybe if you didn't spend so much on takeout, I wouldn't have to say anything. Example 3. An argument escalates. One partner's face goes flat, eyes drop to the floor, arms cross, and they go completely silent for the rest of the conversation, while their heart rate, unseen, has actually spiked higher than at any point during the shouting. Now, my research team wants to correct a common human misread of this data. The misread is this. People assume the goal is to never argue. That healthy couples do not fight. Gottman's research says the opposite. Couples who never disagree are not necessarily healthy. Some are simply disengaged, which predicts decline just as strongly. Conflict itself is not the disease. Arguing is normal, even necessary. The real distinguishing factor between what Gottman calls the masters and the disasters of relationships is not the presence of conflict. It is the ratio of positive to negative interactions surrounding that conflict. Masters maintain a 5-to-1 ratio. 5 positive interactions, small ones, a joke, a touch, genuine interest, an appreciative comment. for every one negative interaction, even during conflict. Disasters drop below that ratio, and the relationship's emotional bank account runs into debt. So the tool is not stop arguing. The tool is a set of specific antidotes, one for each horseman, and Gottman's lab has tested them directly against the disease they cure. The antidote to criticism is the gentle startup. Begin sentences with "I feel," describe the specific situation, and state a positive need, instead of describing your partner's character. Not, "You never help around here," but, "I feel overwhelmed with the housework. Could we split it differently this week?" The antidote to contempt is building a culture of appreciation. Deliberately noticing and voicing your partner's positive qualities, even small ones, on a near-daily basis. Gottman found that couples who did this exercise for even a few weeks showed measurable increases in relationship satisfaction. The antidote to defensiveness is taking responsibility for even a small percentage of the problem. Not the whole thing, just enough to signal, "I hear you, and I am willing to look at my part in this." And the antidote to stonewalling is physiological self-soothing. When you notice your heart rate spiking and your ability to think clearly disappearing, say so out loud. "I'm getting flooded. I need 20 minutes before we keep talking." Then actually take the break, walk, breathe, calm your nervous system before returning to finish the conversation. The break is not avoidance. Avoidance is walking away forever. This is walking away for 20 minutes and coming back. I find this particularly remarkable from an outside perspective. Your species has, in essence, reverse-engineered the exact mechanism of your own social bonds and discovered that the survival of a pair bond has almost nothing to do with how much two humans love each other and almost everything to do with four small, repeatable behavioral choices made under stress. Love, in your species, is not primarily a feeling. It is a pattern of responses, repeated thousands of times, that either builds trust or erodes it. So here is my final observation for this report. You cannot control whether your partner criticizes, shows contempt, gets defensive, or shuts down. You can only control your own four responses. Notice which horseman shows up first in your own conflicts. That is the one to work on, not your partner's, yours. Because the data is clear on one final point. Relationships do not fail because two humans stopped loving each other. They fail because nobody was watching for the horseman until it was already too late to turn them back. You are no longer someone who is not watching. Subscribe for more alien field notes on the hidden mechanics of human connection.